So I'm sitting in the Jewish agency office, and the interviewer, let's call her Michal, looks at my file and goes, "So David, tell me why you want to make Aliyah." And I'm thinking, this is like being asked why I want to breathe. I've been obsessing over this decision for 2 years. I've learned Hebrew. I've memorized Israeli politics. I've basically become a one-man Wikipedia of Israeli culture. And now I have to summarize my entire emotional and spiritual journey in a way that sounds both genuine and politically acceptable. But here's the thing. I've prepared for this moment like I'm defending a doctoral thesis. I've got talking points, backup anecdotes, and contingency answers for every possible follow-up question. I'm basically a walking Aliyah promotional brochure, except I'm trying to sell myself to someone who's heard this exact sales pitch 17 times today. So I launch into my prepared speech about Jewish identity and contributing to Israeli society, and I can see Michal's eyes glazing over slightly, like she's heard this particular combination of buzzwords before. Jewish homeland, check. Tikkun olam, check. Raising children with Hebrew as their natural language, check. I'm hitting all the greatest hits of Aliyah motivation, but I'm starting to sound like a politician running for office in a country I don't live in yet. Then she asks, "Tell me about your Jewish background." And I realize I'm about to give a presentation on my own life to someone who's literally reading my life story from a file in front of her. It's like being asked to prove you know yourself. Well, Michal, I was born Jewish, raised Jewish, educated Jewish, married Jewish, and I'm pretty sure I dream in Jewish. My bar mitzvah photos are literally in the folder you're holding. What more evidence of Jewish background do you need? A DNA test showing I carry the gene for excessive worry about whether there's enough food at parties. But I give her the full rundown anyway, because apparently personal experience needs official verification. I'm explaining my synagogue attendance like I'm providing an alibi. Yes, I attend services regularly. Yes, I know all the prayers. Yes, I argue with the rabbi about politics. Yes, I feel guilty about things I haven't even done yet. Yes, I have strong opinions about bagel quality. I am documentably, certifiably, authentically Jewish. The questions get progressively more surreal. "What do you know about Israeli society?" she asks. And I'm thinking, I know more about Israeli society than most Israelis. I can tell you the unemployment rate, the average temperature in Eilat, the political composition of the Knesset, and the proper way to argue about falafel versus shawarma. I've been studying Israeli culture like I'm cramming for finals at the University of Tel Aviv, but then I realize I might be overselling my Israeli expertise. Because the correct answer isn't I know everything, it's I know enough to know that I don't know everything, but I'm eager to learn. So I'm trying to sound knowledgeable but not arrogant, prepared but not presumptuous, confident but not cocky. It's like diplomatic verbal gymnastics, where every answer needs to demonstrate exactly the right balance of knowledge and humility. "Have you visited Israel before?" she asks. And yes, I have, multiple times. But now I have to explain each visit in a way that proves I'm serious about Aliyah without making it sound like I'm just a tourist with delusions of citizenship. Well, my first visit was birthright, which was transformative. And I'm thinking, everyone says birthright was transformative. It's the most cliched answer in the Aliyah interview playbook. But it was transformative, so what am I supposed to say? Actually, birthright was moderately interesting, but not life-changing, and I'm making Aliyah based on careful rational analysis rather than emotional connection. The practical questions are where it gets really fun. What are your plans for housing? And I have to explain that I plan to rent initially while learning different neighborhoods, which sounds responsible and realistic, but what I really want to say is I plan to find some overpriced tiny apartment with no air conditioning where I'll pay 3 times what I pay now for half the space, and I'll be grateful for it because it's in Israel. "How will you support yourself financially?" she asks. And I launch into my carefully prepared explanation about the Israeli tech industry and my transferable skills. But what I'm really thinking is, I have no idea if anyone will hire someone whose Hebrew sounds like a confused tourist asking for directions to the bathroom, but I'm hoping that desperation and enthusiasm will compensate for linguistic incompetence. The Hebrew question is particularly humiliating. Do you speak Hebrew? And I have to demonstrate my Hebrew skills to someone who probably spoke better Hebrew in kindergarten than I do after 2 years of intensive study. So I'm sitting there conjugating verbs like I'm in some sort of linguistic audition, trying to prove I can handle basic conversation, while secretly panicking that I just said something about wanting to marry a camel instead of move to Jerusalem. But the absolute best part is when she asks about my family's reaction to the Aliyah decision. And I have to explain that my parents are supportive but concerned, which is diplomatic code for they think I've lost my mind, but they're trying to be nice about it. My dad's actual reaction was, "So you're moving to the Middle East during a period of political instability to pay more for everything while struggling to communicate in a language you don't really speak yet." And my mom keeps asking if I'm sure I can't just visit more often instead. The military service question is where I really start sweating. How do you feel about military service? And I want to sound appropriately patriotic and committed, but not so gung-ho that I seem unhinged. I view it as an honor and an obligation, I say, which is true, but what I'm really thinking is, I'm terrified that I'll be the 35-year-old recruit who can't figure out which end of the rifle to hold while trying to follow orders in Hebrew that I understand about 60% of. Then there are the questions designed to test whether I have realistic expectations about Israeli life. What challenges do you anticipate? And I have to demonstrate that I'm aware of the difficulties without sounding so pessimistic that I seem unprepared for them. Well, the cost of living is high, the bureaucracy is complex, the political situation is challenging. And I'm listing problems like I'm reading a restaurant review that mentions the food is overpriced, the service is slow, and the location is questionable. But somehow I still really want to eat there. The political questions are particularly treacherous. What do you think about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? And I realize I'm being asked to summarize one of the world's most complex geopolitical situations in a way that proves I'm informed but not extremist, concerned but not paralyzed by worry, supportive of Israel but not blindly nationalistic. It's like being asked to explain quantum physics while juggling, technically possible but likely to end badly. My favorite moment is when she asks, "What concerns do you have?" And I want to say, well, currently I'm concerned that I'm not giving you the right answers to prove that I'm the right kind of person to immigrate to a country I already desperately want to move to, based on criteria that seem both extremely important and completely arbitrary. But instead I give some diplomatic answer about language barriers and adjustment periods. The community integration questions are where I start sounding like a social media influencer planning content strategy. How will you build social connections? And I'm listing activities like I'm creating a LinkedIn networking plan. I'll join a synagogue, volunteer with organizations, participate in community events. What I don't say is, I plan to be that over-eager new immigrant who says shalom too enthusiastically and asks too many questions about everything until people either adopt me or start avoiding me. But here's the really mental part. Halfway through the interview, I realized that Michal probably wants me to succeed. The Jewish agency isn't trying to prevent Aliyah. They're trying to facilitate it while making sure people are reasonably prepared. So, I'm stressing about giving perfect answers to someone who's basically on my team, like cramming for a test where the teacher wants everyone to pass. The timeline questions are where my neurotic planning tendencies really shine. When are you planning to make Aliyah? And I pull out what is essentially a project management timeline that I've color-coded and cross-referenced with Israeli school calendars, Jewish holidays, and optimal shipping schedules. I've planned this move with the precision of a NASA mission, and I can see Michal thinking, this person is either extremely well prepared or completely obsessive-compulsive. By the end of the interview, I've basically given a comprehensive presentation on why I'm qualified to be myself in a different country. I've proven that I'm Jewish enough, motivated enough, prepared enough, and stable enough to successfully relocate my entire life based on a combination of religious conviction and personal determination that I can barely articulate without sounding like a greeting card. Michael closes her folder and smiles. Well, David, you seem very well prepared for this step. And I want to say, prepared? I've been preparing for this conversation like it was a job interview for the position of professional Jewish person in the state of Israel. I know more about absorption benefits than most people know about their own hobbies. But I just smile back and say, thank you, I'm very excited about this journey, because that's the diplomatic answer, even though what I really mean is, I'm terrified, exhilarated, overwhelmed, and desperately hoping that my 2 years of obsessive preparation will somehow compensate for the fact that I'm about to completely uproot my life based on feelings I can't quite explain to people who need me to explain them. Walking out of that office, I feel like I've just performed a one-man show about my own life for an audience of one who was taking notes and will probably discuss my performance with colleagues later. Oh, the 2:30 appointment? Yeah, classic case of over-prepared American with strong Jewish identity but questionable Hebrew skills. Should integrate fine once he stops trying so hard to sound like a textbook. But you know what? I think I nailed it. Not because I gave perfect answers, but because I managed to convince someone whose job is evaluating people's readiness for life-changing decisions that yes, I really do know what I'm getting myself into, and yes, I really am crazy enough to do it anyway. Though I do wonder what happens if you fail a Jewish agency interview. Do you get a letter saying, sorry, you're not qualified to be yourself in Israel? Do they keep your file for future reference? David Cohen. Nice enough fellow, but insufficient enthusiasm for bureaucratic challenges. Recommend he try again after developing stronger opinions about Middle Eastern politics. At this point, I'm pretty sure I could teach a masterclass on Jewish agency interviews. Advanced self-presentation, how to prove you're qualified for your own life decisions to government representatives. I've become an expert in explaining myself to people who need official verification that I am, in fact, exactly who I've always known myself to be. But honestly, despite the surreal nature of being interviewed about my own identity and motivations, there was something oddly validating about the whole process. Like someone officially confirming that yes, your dreams are reasonable, your preparation is adequate, and your decision to completely change your life makes enough sense that a government agency is willing to help you do it. Now I just have to wait for official approval, which feels like waiting for permission to want what I already want. But hey, at least I know I'm documentably qualified to be a Jewish person who wants to live in Israel. That's got to count for something, right?